Get into pediatrics here real quick.
Unless anybody had any questions, feel free to pop them in there and we'll answer them in a little bit here.
Yeah. So one of the things that is pretty big right now, especially with our kiddos between the ages of like 5 to 18, when kids are starting getting into sports and things like that, are concussions. And if you think about concussions, what I really want you to think about is concussions are actually we call a brain sprain. Just like you sprain your ankle, your brain is actually, it has some trauma to it. So how do they happen? Well, it takes about 95 G's of force to cause a concussion. And on average, a football player that gets hit receives about 103 G's of force. That just blew my mind. Now, if we compare that to, say, a fighter pilot. Now, you've always heard about the amount of G-force that is put on a fighter pilot. They only have 9 G's of force when they go into a roll.
Oh, wow.
Okay, you're talking...
Well, those drama queens, they make it look so bad.
But 9 G's for a fighter pilot when they go into a roll, and your 16-year-old gets smacked on the football field with about, on average, 103. That's craziness, and it takes 95 for an actual concussion to take place. So on the other side of that too, it only takes 4 G's of force to cause a neck injury. So when we're looking at overall injury, it's not just the brain to the neck as well, especially to the upper cervical region. I mean, this is very, very vulnerable to trauma. So I mean, you can't have a concussion without something going on with your neck at the same time, if you think about just the science behind all that. So about 2.4 million sports-related emergency visits happen every year. 2.4 million.
And I'm really glad that this particular subject has gotten a lot of press lately. I think enough kids got injured that finally it's reached public awareness about it. So I mean, while that's a staggering number, I'm really, really glad that concussions are being taken seriously now, because it can really have long-term effects on a child's neural development. I mean, even teenagers, our teenagers, especially the boys, are. I mean, they still got a lot of development to happen. I mean, their prefrontal cortex isn't fully formed.
25?
25, 45, I don't know, 25.
Science says 25.
Science says 25. So if you think about a brain injury to a developing brain, I mean, that's a pretty big deal.
It's a really big deal. And so you want to know exactly how are concussions diagnosed? Well, really it's symptom related right at first. So you headaches, dizziness, blurry vision, vomiting, even the feeling of nausea, brain fog, slow thinking, like they're just not reacting as quickly. Loss of concentration, mood changes, and also sleep disorders. And they're not always present right away. Sometimes it can take up to 2 days for those symptoms to show up. So after any sort of head injury, trauma, whatever, you want to make sure that you're watching. You're not just letting it go if they get up and feel fine when they get up off the field, or some other injury has occurred. It's also important to know when to go to ER, because these can be very, very life-threatening if they're not addressed immediately. So you want to monitor over a 24-hour period of time. Okay, and even 2 days depending on how hard the hit was or if you're seeing any of these symptoms. But if there's repeated vomiting, that can't stay awake, slurred speech, you can really tell that some of these are a sudden severe headache. I mean, like they're grabbing their head and they're screaming.
Yeah. And really any of these symptoms, whether they've had a known head injury or not, are really emergency situations.
Yeah, so please don't discount these. It's really important to know the symptoms of a concussion when you have an athlete in your house.
A lot of us natural mamas, we want to stay out of the medical system, but an emergency is exactly the time to use our medical system. The medical system in America for emergency care is better than anywhere else in the world. Right. Where we fall down on is lifestyle and things like that. But this is the time to go to the ER. And
absolutely.
because this can be a life-threatening situation, or even if it's not life-threatening, brain damage, and you know, there are certainly cases of mental handicaps that have been lifelong because of untreated concussions.
Yeah, and if you that period of that 48 hours afterwards is really important to note any serious complications that could come from a concussion. But really, you want to make sure that it could take up to 2 weeks to heal a concussion. So there are different stages that are taken. So think of it as a sprained ankle. You know, I called it a brain sprain. So think of this injury as a sprained ankle. If you are a long distance runner and you sprain your ankle, you're not going to get the next day and try and run 25 miles. You're going to heal. You're going to aid to that ankle. Your brain's the same way. It's not an ankle. You know, it's your brain. It's that master computer of your body. So there are, you know, 6 steps to healing, and they can take up to 2 weeks depending on the severity of the concussion. So not only would you need, you know, a proper nervous system evaluation, you know, maybe it's the ER first. Okay, maybe you need to really know what's going on. Maybe you need to get some special diagnostics to make sure there's not a brain bleed occurring. You know, that could be a possibility. But after all those things are taken out of it, you want to make sure that not only do you get your nervous system checked, remember I told you can't have a concussion without neck issues as well, so you want to make sure that is taken care of. But nutritionally as well, we have a fantastic nutritional protocol to help the healing of this neurological tissue. So be sure and ask us about that. That is so important for healing.
This concussion protocol, we've seen it in action, and there was a particular lady that had been struggling for quite a while. And we were able to implement the protocol for her, and within the next week, she was starting to really feel like herself.
You could see the change in her eyes.
Yeah.
I mean, it was pretty amazing.
Yeah. So, and she was an older lady, so kids respond even quicker. So that definitely something to keep in mind. Hopefully a concussion doesn't happen in your family, but if it does, we'll keep that in mind.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, sorry guys, we're a little sideways here. It's kind of bugging me.
A perfectionist in you.
Okay. Want a probiotic?
Yeah. All right. So probiotics. You know, we talked a little bit about those with our travel kit. However, our kiddos do need some special probiotics as well. So we do have several ones. You know, the science of probiotics is really getting amazing these days.
There's been a lot of research on it.
Yeah.
So it's basically the research is telling us what we've kind of known all along, but helping us get really specific with it. So it's totally cool.
Right. So there are several ones that are good for different conditions. So each strain of bacteria that we have here, these probiotics, will really help you get past a certain issue. So we have a few here, and we do use Claire Labs. We like them because they're free of all those excipient things, those other ingredients that could really cause some major issues. So as far as for babies, especially with colic, I mean, there are some major things that can happen with that could really make life miserable, not for just the baby, but for you as well. So this one right here, the Lactobacillus reuteri protectus. I like that. I like that they named them. Yes. Yeah. It actually was shown to decrease crying time of colic by 74%.
Nice.
I mean, think about that. I mean, that's worth it, you know, the weight in gold, any mom.
Yeah. I mean, you've got a colicky baby and you combine chiropractic care with this specialized strain of probiotic. You've got magic happening in your house. Happy babies, happy life.
Right. So we do have an infant one right here from Claire Labs. It's Therabiotic for infants. It is a powder. You can put it in breast milk. You can just even take a little bit of it and just put it on the inside of the mouth of your baby. And that way they get colonized, everything goes well. So it's very, very easily taken. The next one is for constipation. Sometimes our babies, they get a little constipated. Kind of depends on what's going on. But there's the Bifidobacterium infantis, and that's actually a really good one as well. And that is part of actually what is in our infant one as well. So you want to make sure that if you want a broad spectrum one, the Therabiotic for infants is fantastic.
And while we're on the subject of constipation, I just want to talk about a couple of things with that. So This is a problem that I see a lot, even in breastfed infants. And so really what your guideline for infant constipation is that your baby should be going a minimum of every 2 days. And if they're not, then they're considered constipated. So some other recommendations aside from the probiotic, which is an absolute must, if your baby is already eating foods, then you want to add fermented foods. So that can look like yogurt, sauerkraut, pickles, beet kvass. There's a lot of different options if your baby's already eating quite a bit, or if they're still really young and they're not eating like that yet, then you want to take those things.
Right.
You want to eat
Right.
them.
If you're still nursing, treat mama to treat baby.
Yeah. If your baby is old enough that they can eat grains, or you are eating grains, you want to make sure that your grains are soaked properly. So that helps to neutralize some of the chemical properties of grains that could prevent them from being digested properly. One recommendation is to eat foods that help to add bulk and slippery. So soaked flax seeds are one of those. Chia seeds would be another option. Think about when you get chia seeds in water and how they poof.
Yes.
And then they're also really slimy. So that can help move things through your digestive tract. You can see how that would work. Aloe juice, digestive tea. Traditional Medicinals has a nice digestive tea. Prune juice. Also, let me grab this book real quick. Hold on, guys. I forgot to grab it.
Oh yeah, that's a great book.
This is a really, really good book. The Nourishing Traditions book of baby and child care. Can you see that? This is a really, really good book, and they have recipes for digestive tea in here too that are perfect for baby. So like the traditional medicinals, that would be more for mama. The digestive tea in this book is good for baby, which is safe for infants. Okay.
All right. We've got a couple more here of probiotics that we have. One's called Protogen. Now, if you have kids or even yourself that have problems with oral health or even some gastrointestinal issues, but you need more of a chewable, I love the Protogen. This is excellent for those that are needing, let's see, excellent, there we go. So it's called Protogen. It is a chewable, and you'll want to go ahead and chew this after you brushed your teeth because you want this to remain in the oral cavity. It helps with overall oral health. The particular probiotics in here have also been shown to help with weight loss. It's not a weight loss pill. However, these particular species are very good to help with that process. It helps you digest, especially things like B vitamins, vitamin K. It helps that whole process of taking in those as well. Then the last one we have here is just a basic children's chewable. So as soon as the kids start getting teeth and start, chew things, this would be great for kiddos as well. This is just your basic overall kids, the Therabiotic children's chewable as well. So those are the ones that we have for kids.
Some of the new ones that we have.
Yeah, it's very exciting. I love the way Clara Labs has really been taking the science and just really running with it.
So if you've been taking a probiotic for a little while, and we always recommend that you switch it up, so this might be a great time to switch up your child's probiotic, especially if they're having any of those specific issues.
Yeah. So the next thing we have here is fevers. Now, we may not be able to take too much time with fevers. However, we do have another video that we did recently that did go over fevers, especially parents' fears with fevers, because you've been taught that lower is always better, get the fever gone, but that can be actually very detrimental to overall healing.
Yeah, so there's a few things that I want to make sure that we highlight. Number one, not everybody's normal temperature is 98.6. So if you're a parent who's going to want to take temperature, take your child's temperature a few times when they're healthy. And so that way you know if they tend to run a little high or a little low. Now, I really recommend that you don't need to take your kid's temperature.
Watch how they're acting.
Watch how they're acting. If your child is sick but resting and then sitting up and playing, they have, they look, their eyes look good. They're responding to you like they normally would.
Yeah, I mean, my daughter can run with 104 fever and literally run.
Literally run, yes. Yeah. So, but if you are a parent that will want to take the fever, make sure you know what your child's temperature normally is. Say their normal temperature is just a little hotter. They may only have gone up 1/10 of a degree, but you think they have a fever.
Right.
So,
and just to note too, schools in general, they will not even send a child home until their temperature has reached 100.3. So, I mean, they wouldn't even send them home. So think about that too. Take that in context for, exactly, what to do with fevers.
Yeah. The other thing is that a fever doesn't always mean that your child is sick. So, teething is a really, really big one for younger kids. They'll often run a fever, maybe a little bit of a runny nose.
It's just an inflammation response is what it is, those gums.
Sometimes if your child is processing digestively or processing out some heavy metals, or even in older children or adults, a fever can happen with ovulation. So all of those things could be completely normal. And if you're freaking out about something that's normal, I mean, we've got other things to freak out about, guys. The other thing that I want to talk a little bit about is the benefits of fever. So like Dr. Taylor said, so many times we get really concerned about fevers, but they actually serve a purpose in our body. And when we just automatically go to lowering a fever, really we prolong the illness. Because what our body's doing is cooking the bugs.
That's what we say, it's cooking the bugs.
Cooking the bugs. And so imagine like you're trying to cook the bugs, but you keep turning down the temperature. Well, it's going to take that much longer for your body to get rid of what it's trying to get rid of.
Exactly.
So it's actually a protective mechanism of your body to fever when you are sick. And so you don't want to try and bring that down. The fever stimulates your body to produce more white blood cells, which are what actually go in and surround and eat the bacteria. And then it also stimulates your body to produce interferon, which helps to mitigate viruses. So tons and tons and tons of benefits of a fever. And so I would highly recommend that you not lower a fever.
Making your child comfortable is really the best thing to do.
Yeah.
A cool wet rag on the forehead, maybe even a lukewarm bath is always very helpful. It always makes me feel better. Nice, nice lukewarm bath would be really good too. And they can play while they're in there too.
The other thing is that people always want to know like what's too high. So it's really rare for a fever to go above 104. 105 is kind of where the medical line is drawn. Now it's really uncommon to have that happen. And if you are taking your child's temperature and it's saying like 105, 106, but they're sitting there playing, get another thermometer because likely you haven't gotten a correct temperature. And so but there is a time when you want to seek advice. So if you have a fever of any type and your child is younger than 3 months, you will want to contact their pediatrician. That's definitely a time when you want medical support. If your child is between 3 and 36 months and they have a fever above 102, that is a time when you'll also want to contact your pediatrician. And then after that, that 105 level, some people say 104.5, but it would be very, very uncommon for your child to have a temperature that high.
Right. There are 3 different instances where temperature can go out of control. So the hypothalamus is your kind of your temperature control in your brain. So again, your brain controlling these things would be, you have barbiturate overdose, which I really hope none of your children are handling those. Let's see, there is heat stroke, which can be, I mean, we live in Texas. So
Yeah.
those are some things that you really have to be careful of. If there are, if their
Especially-
eyes are rolling back in their heads and they're red, that's pretty scary stuff. And that way,
Especially your older children who might be playing sports. I mean, we've had even some deaths in Texas because of heat stroke. So that is not something to mess around with. But if you know that your child hasn't been out in the sun, then
Right.
yeah,
right.
then that's not going to be the cause.
And then meningitis is the other one. And easy way to check for that is if you bring your child's head down like this and they feel like a lightning bolt go down their back, that's definite cause to go to the emergency room.
Stiff neck,
Stiff neck and that
along-
lightning bolt.
along with a fever. So we're not talking about like body aches because that's pretty common with a flu. We're talking about a stiff neck with sharp pain when bringing the head down, and that would be an emergency room visit.
Yep.
Yeah. Another thing to keep in mind is the height of the temperature doesn't equal the amount of sickness. So, you know, some kids will just automatically run a little hotter, and so don't necessarily go just off of what a thermometer might say. You know, look at your child's overall presentation to decide, you know, how sick they are.
Exactly.
And then with little kids, well, with everybody, but especially with little kids, you want to make sure that they're not becoming dehydrated if they have a fever. So your general rule of thumb is that you want 4 wet diapers in 24 hours, or newborns three times their body weight in ounces. So if you're
Pretty math.
if you're one of those people that wants to get super technical with it, you can do that.
Yeah, I'd be more worried about a child drinking during, you know, a sickness rather than eating. If they're not hungry, don't force food in them. Just make sure that they have enough fluids.
Yeah, absolutely. So the long and short of it is that rarely are fevers going to actually be a problem. They are a mechanism of the body that's designed to help your child to heal faster. And so short-circuiting that is going to prolong the illness. But do keep in mind those specific cases where you would want to seek your pediatrician's support.
All right.
Okay.
So where are we at? We're about just at an hour now. So where are we going to go next? Where do you want to go next?
Let's talk about growing pains.
Oh, yes. That's so common.
Growing pains are really common.
Yeah.
And I suffered with these as a
I
child.
remember screaming. My legs
Yeah.
hurt so bad. I did.
Yeah, and before I knew what to do, my own children had some of these issues too. So growing pains are common but not normal, and they do indicate that your child needs some nutritional support. The recommendations are to increase meat, fats, organ needs. So making sure that your child's body has a fully nutritive diet.
Yeah, I mean a full rounded too. And if you're looking at those particular foods, you're looking at foods that are high in vitamin A, vitamin D, and then vitamin E as well. So you know that those are the immune activators. Those are the ones that really help with the process of growing.
There can also be an issue of mineral imbalance with your child too. So the go-to one for that is typically magnesium, but it could also be calcium or potassium too. And that is something that we can help you out checking in the office if you need support with that. There is a test to do, an easy test. An easy test to do. So if you need support, but start with those things first.
Right.
And if your child is having continual issues with it, consider using some arnica cream. So like the sports cream that we have here would be ideal for that. Or giving them an Epsom salt soak prior to bedtime. That will help to give them magnesium as well as to help calm the muscles. Okay. Pickiness.
Ah, I know all about that.
You know all about that
I
one.
know
Why
all
don't you take
about
that one?
pickiness. So picky eaters, you know, there are picky eaters, and then there are really picky eaters. You know, and it can be a sign of some deficiencies. Zinc deficiency is probably one of the big ones. Now, there is a simple test that we can test to see if you're sufficient in zinc. It takes what?
5 seconds.
Yeah, 5 seconds.
And, if you're in a patient here, it's free for you.
Exactly. So we can determine whether you're zinc deficient, but also it could be a sign of dysbiosis. So the probiotics that we talked about just a moment ago, can really play a big role in helping your kids become more comfortable with foods. Because if you don't have the proper microbiome, the proper gut bugs, they're not going to be there to help break down food. So that could be sending a signal to the brain that, no, I can't eat this because I can't break this particular food down.
Yeah, and that's where you see the kids who, they're not just picky, but they get a lot of anxiety when you try and introduce a new food. So I would never recommend that you force a child to eat something. The general recommendations are put it on their plate, let them experience it. But if you're noticing that they have a lot of anxiety with it, then you're probably looking at something deeper.
Yeah. And nutritional deficiencies are big. There's that gut-brain connection that cannot be severed at all. And so when those bugs are sending signals to the brain, say, hey, you know what, it's not good to be eating this right now, it can cause some major anxiety.
Yeah.
All
All right. Okay, so let's talk about sinus symptoms. So, North Texas, it kills you. Well, not literally. Take that back. I don't like saying things like that. But a lot of people in North Texas do have issue with sinus symptoms, and that includes our children. So, if your child has chronic sinusitis, sinus issues, first of all, make sure that their nervous system is clear. So, many people see allergy or sinus symptoms clear up with chiropractic care because they're having the neurological input, their immune system is working better. So that is, first of all, number one. But if you're already doing that, your child is part of our Lifetime Family Wellness Program, then consider doing some inhalation therapy. So, y'all, inhalation therapy is a really fancy way of saying, put the humidifier in their bedroom at night.
Exactly.
I loved it when I saw that. Inhalation therapy.
Yeah.
Really fancy. So consider putting a couple of drops of essential oil in a humidifier or oil diffuser in your child's room and let that run at night. So I really like eucalyptus for this. But if you're using homeopathy, eucalyptus is going to be a no-no. So you can use lemon and lavender. They work very much in the same way. Very, very good for any sort of sinus symptoms. We also have some homeopathy available. So if your kiddo is having a lot of sinus issues, ask us about that and we can make a recommendation for you.
Yeah.
And then last but not least, your sinus mirrors your gut. And so if it is a super chronic sinus issue, we need to take a look at the gut as well.
Yeah, it's an immune deficiency is what it is. That majority of your immune system does lie in your gut, so it just makes sense to go there.
Okay, let's see.
Can we get to these questions?
Let me talk about one thing first. So something that has become really, really popular is to look at tongue tie. And I'm not sure if everybody did like the same continuing education at the same time or like what the deal is, but all of a sudden overnight, like every single baby has a tongue tie.
Yeah.
So I wanted to just talk a little bit. I do think that if your child has a diagnosable tongue tie that is going to create issues in how the head shapes itself and how the tongue is able to move for speech issues, then taking care of a tongue tie can be important.
Yeah.
But I also really feel like it's overdiagnosed, and some of the tongue ties that are being clipped are not necessarily going to cause those issues. And we have seen babies in the practice that have had trouble healing that. And so it's just like any other surgical intervention. We really, really, really want to make sure that that is the only way to go prior to doing a surgery, even something as simple as clipping a tongue tie.
Yeah.
And there are some tests that we can do. We can run you through them in the office on looking at how the tongue moves. If the child can bring their tongue to the bottom of their teeth, their top teeth. If a baby is sucking equally and can fully open their jaw. So there's some things that we can absolutely run through with you in the office to help you in your decision, along with your surgeon, as to whether or not a tongue tie is actually going to be a problem for your baby. And then there's some epigenetic links to tongue ties too. So if your baby's been diagnosed with a tongue tie, there are some genetic mutations that may also be present. So it will alert you that some further testing would be helpful. And we're talking about some of the MTHFR. You may have heard those words. And basically it means that your body's that your child's body will have trouble processing some toxins and metals and things like that, which can become a toxic load on their body.
And also taking in folate and B12 as well. So those are some major issues that some kiddos have.
Yeah.
And so if there is a diagnosed tongue tie, don't freak out. Don't run and get it done right away. There are some tests that are done that it may be that that's a good choice. So just kind of getting a second opinion would be very important.
Yes, and then make sure that you take that next step and get the genetic testing for your child, especially before deciding to do any vaccinations, because you can kind of end up in this snowball of additional issues because of the genetic differences of your child.
So we did have a few questions on vaccines. Now this is really, it's really a loaded subject. And one of the things I want to preface this with is we support vaccine choice. Still at this point right now here in Texas, it is a choice whether or not to vaccinate. And choosing not to vaccinate means that you need to be educated on why. Why are some of us, like myself,
or choosing to vaccinate.
Or choosing to vaccinate. I mean, there are two ways. You should have that choice of whether your child gets a medical procedure or not. It's really, really important to understand. So, let's look at measles, because measles really is in the news today, right? I mean, we hear all these outbreaks. Well, before 1963, measles was considered a benign childhood illness. Nobody was scared of it. Let's take those of you out there that, were part of the chickenpox era before the vaccine. Were you scared of chickenpox? Were your parents scared of chickenpox? No. We're not scared. We weren't scared of the diseases until a vaccine came about.
Right. So it's all about public perception. I remember being kind of excited about chickenpox because I knew that I was going to get to lay on the couch and read my books. I was such a bookworm. So that was actually good news in my family. Maybe not for my mom, she had to put up with me, but for me it was great news.
I remember my mom getting off the phone. Oh, okay. Guess who you're going to go play with today?
Yeah.
So I remember Ashley. I went over to my friend Ashley's house. She had the chickenpox. A week later, I got him. And then my brother got him, and it was all good. We were done. We were done with the chickenpox.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a Brady Bunch episode where they had a big whiteboard that, chickenpox, mumps, measles, and they checked them off to make sure everybody got through everything. So then they knew that they actually were done with all these diseases, and they.
So you have to look a little bit about how has public perception changed, and what are the causative factors of that change of perception? So, I mean, it's a little diabolic.
That's probably a good word for it.
So if you have a product and you want to have a market for that product, you have to create the need. And so the need has been created that these diseases are such a big deal. This many children die from them, and so why wouldn't you protect your child from that?
Right.
And I think that if you just look at that at face value, if A plus B equals C, then why wouldn't you protect? If your child didn't need to get that disease, why wouldn't you protect them from it? but it's a much more complicated subject than
Yeah.
that. And so I just want to like really reinforce that nobody wants a child to die.
No.
I mean, that is
That's the worst.
tragic.
Mm-hmm.
That's tragedy. But if you look at the children that are being harmed by the vaccine versus the number of children that are
Dying.
possibly dying from the disease, we're at a point now where more children are being hurt by the vaccination than hurt by the disease. And these statistics are readily available through the CDC, through vaccine injury reporting. And so that is information that you will want to seek out.
Yeah, I mean, one question here I got here, are all vaccines bad? Well, I'm going to actually turn that around and say, are all vaccines good for everybody? I mean, so you really have to take a look at this. The vaccine program is the only medical procedure ever that it's a one-size-fits-all. There is never the dosage. I mean, if you are a 3.5-pound preemie or a 9-pound fully developed infant, they're going to get the same amount of vaccine. And the vaccines these days that are given, they're at 12 hours old. 12 hours. Hepatitis B is given to infants. Hepatitis B is transferred through blood, like if you're sharing a dirty needle, or through sex. It is an STD.
That's a really crazy neonatal unit.
No kidding. Getting it on in there. I mean, it boggles my mind. You know, but they're going to give that 3.5-pound preemie the same dosage as they would give that full-term infant.
We don't hear a lot about this with our children, but if you Google veterinarian vaccine dosage testimony, you can hear veterinarians talking about this. And the same is happening with our children. It's just much more of a hot button issue because vaccine safety has been called into question, rightfully so lately. But you can easily find the videos where veterinarians are talking about this, where they're the same thing. They're required to give a tiny little teacup poodle the same vaccination as they give to a Doberman, and the vet talks about seeing these little dogs dying on the table from the vaccination.
Right, and they're required by law to do it.
They're required by law to do it, and so the testimony is about changing the laws. But you can see a little bit about how the dosage can affect depending on size.
So, I mean, one of the things I want to put on here, we're going to put some links on here because it's a very important topic, and I don't want to gloss over it. And we've already been going for quite some time. So, what I plan on doing is I plan on doing several different small ones so you can digest it a little bit easier.
Yeah. And Dr. Taylor's already done 2 vaccine videos that are available on our HealthWorks at HealthWorks TX YouTube. So you can look. One of them was about which ones have you done?
I've done DTaP during pregnancy.
DTaP during pregnancy.
And I'm just about to do one on tetanus.
Oh, okay. All right, so those will be up shortly. And that is something, y'all, if you know Dr. Taylor, you know she loves to research. So
got it all right here.
She loves to research and she loves to memorize the numbers, so she will have those for you. So that will be a great resource for you guys.
So if you just so you know that if you have any particular questions or you want me to do a video that is, with some particular vaccine, let me know because I want to make sure that I'm making those for you guys.
Yeah.
Can you spread vaccines out? Absolutely you can. You have to find a doctor first of all. We've got 2 pediatricians that we work very closely with. And if you want to know who they are, just let us know. We'd be glad to refer you. They're fantastic. Yeah. But there is a book called The Vaccine Friendly Plan. It's by Dr. Bob Sears. He is basically a pediatrician to the stars, really.
Yeah.
He's a famous pediatrician. And this is great. He's been in several documentaries recently, and he has put this book out there for parents that don't feel comfortable not vaccinating, but they don't feel comfortable with the 74 doses of vaccines between ages 0 to 18. They don't feel comfortable giving their child that many vaccines. And so he created a book, a plan that works a lot better with these parents that are choosing to vaccinate at a slower pace. And so I really encourage you to look at that book. We'll have the link to that book too.
It's a great resource.
So another question was, did you vaccinate your kids? Well, no, I didn't. I've been researching vaccines and their effect on the immune system for over 20 years, long before I had children. And I knew going into having children that I was confident in that because I was so educated on the subject.
Yeah.
I encourage you to get educated. I encourage you to read the studies. Start with the vaccine inserts. You can just look up CDC Pink Book vaccine ingredients.
Yeah.
Start there, and then you can actually look up vaccine inserts. Look at what the manufacturer actually says about the vaccine. I go this in with the DTaP during pregnancy, one that I did.
I mean, we encourage you to read the labels on your food. If you're going to inject something into your child's body, you should read the insert. And so a lot of times if you ask for an insert at a pediatrician's office, you will get like a little sheet of paper that has like just some facts. That is not a vaccine insert. Yeah. So no, that won't do it. A vaccine insert is like this big.
It's about 3 feet long,
and it's folded up into like this big.
Very thin paper, and it's front and back.
And it's got bring a magnifying glass because the print is yay big.
Yeah.
And you will want to read the whole thing. I think it would be very enlightening for you.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And what vaccines do we need? Well, and for my children, I don't think they need any vaccines. Their immune systems are robust. If they even get a little cold, if their friend is suffering from the same cold, they shared it somehow, it'll take them a week or two to get over it. My kids, maybe 1 or 2 days, and they're not even kept home from school. So, you've got to understand the severity of these childhood diseases, because if you even look in the Merck manual, CDC even, they'll call it a benign childhood disease, first and foremost.
Yeah, and one of the things that has been called for recently is to study the immune system responses between vaccinated children and unvaccinated children. And there really has been no long-term longitudinal study. Some people are starting to gather some data, but we really need a legitimate study.
Mm-hmm. They won't do it.
It hasn't been done. And so what we can do as parents and as citizens is continue to call for this research to be done. I don't know if we're going to get into it a little bit later, but when a vaccine is administered, it changes the way that the immune system works.
Right.
And so that's why Dr. Taylor's child seems to have a more robust immune system, or it is apparent that Dr. Taylor's child has a more robust immune system than some of their friends. Now, of course, there's other factors that go into that, like taking care of their body with chiropractic care, nutrition.
Yeah.
But speaking specifically about the vaccination, when you change the way that the immune system works, you're opening up the body to be more susceptible to other illnesses, more susceptible to things like asthma and allergies and inappropriate immune responses. And that inappropriate immune responses, that's a lot of things that our society really struggles with as major killers versus benign childhood illnesses.
Yeah, my question is, are we trading these benign chickenpox? Are we trading chickenpox for asthma and allergy to peanuts? I mean, you've got to be living under a rock if you haven't realized that the food allergies that children have today are exponential in nature. I mean, they have gone up so much. We can't even bring nuts to schools anymore.
Yeah.
Latex balloons were banned 2 years ago from my kids' school.
And these allergies have been linked back to the
change in the immune system.
The change in the immune system with the sheer number of vaccines that our children are getting now.
So I would actually like to give you some homework if you choose to do it. So there's this great website called drugs.com, and they have what we call an interaction checker. So just in case you're wondering what grandma's taking or whatnot, you're making sure that everything is kosher with all these different doctors that she has, all her different medications, you can do the same thing with vaccines. So you go to drugs.com and say go to the CDC website, and you can look at what a baby is given at 2 months. That's the first round of vaccinations besides the one that they give at birth. It's 6 to 8 doses of vaccines. They're not getting 6 to 8 shots, but doses like the MMR, that's 3 doses of a vaccine. It's 3 different pathogens being injected. So go to this particular website, and I want you to put in the interaction checker. Put in the name of the vaccine, and then hit add, and just keep on adding all the vaccines that are given in that one visit. It will show there is no studies to show that it is safe to inject all of these things at the same time. There's none. There's no studies to show that there's any interaction. There's no studies. They haven't even studied it.
Yeah.
So how do you know it's safe?
And that's where, if you've heard about the anti-vaccine movement, a lot of times those people are really painted with kind of like they're being very radical. But the majority of what people who are speaking out against vaccines want are some of these studies. So,
just show me that it's safe.
Would you get a heart transplant if it never been studied? Well, somebody's got to be the first person to do it.
Right.
But do you want your child to be studied?
It is a mass experiment.
Yeah, right now our children are the study, so we need to make sure that we are vocal in calling for the studies for all of these different questions that are being raised with vaccines.
Because what you have, first of all, is vaccines, first of all, don't work at 100%. We all know that. I mean, even the doctors out there that tout vaccines, they know that vaccines do not work at 100%.
Yeah, I mean, going back to the measles, so we've had measles outbreaks, we've had a few mumps outbreaks, and those children that are experiencing the disease have been vaccinated against the disease. So
the majority,
like with the Disneyland,
the majority were adults.
the Disneyland with measles brouhaha.
Yeah.
Everybody that had gotten the disease was vaccinated.
Yeah,
but
the majority were.
Was there anybody that wasn't?
They were either too young, but the majority were adults.
The adults. Okay.
Yeah, like mid-20s.
But yet that's typically blamed on an unvaccinated person,
which they never found patients.
Which is kind of crazy. But anyway, I mean, just to give evidence to the point that vaccines are not a guarantee that you won't get the disease.
Right. But, when you look at that insert, there are adverse reactions. Not everybody responds to a medical procedure the same. So how do they know? How do they know that little baby Joey and little baby Emma are going to react the same way? They don't know. They have absolutely zero knowledge. So how do we know who's susceptible and who's not? We simply don't.
Yeah.
And so until there's more studies out there, maybe if you choose to vaccinate, maybe going slower would be better for you. Or maybe just delaying a little bit. In Japan, they delay all vaccinations until after 2 years of age when there's actual immune responses. I mean, babies can't even make antibodies successfully until after 9 months of age. And they're injecting children at 12 hours old. That doesn't make any sense. This is all science. So, when we're looking at vaccines, either A, you get the disease and you're immune for life, or B, you get injected for the rest of your life. Those are your two choices.
And another point to bring up is that a lot of these childhood diseases have been found to be protective against other things later in life. So, for instance,
measles and leukemia.
We all know about chicken pox and shingles. So you're trading a benign childhood illness for
very serious
things that we don't
things
that we don't know how to take care of.
Yeah. So there's going to be a lot more coming on vaccines. I think it's such a loaded topic that we need to kind of take it in little bits. Yeah. So I wanted to answer the questions that came in from our practice members, but I think to really do this particular subject service, that we need to create some videos that will a little bit at a time, so you can really get educated and you can really do some of the studying.
And if
that
you
we
really want to know all about vaccines,
Love
this is a fabulous docu-series.
It's called The Truth
The
About
Truth About
Vaccines.
Vaccines. Okay, well, let's move on to strep.
Okay. So strep is something that I think every parent knows about, has maybe even their child has had it, and a lot of kids are getting it over and over and over again.
Yeah.
And treating it, the first line defense, for treating strep is always an antibiotic. You get that rapid strep test and doctor says, here's your Z-Pak. That's pretty much the standard of care when it comes to strep. And a lot of the reasons why is because, first of all, your kid's really, really uncomfortable. And the strep hurts. It's like razor blades, right? So, you want to make sure that child is comfortable. And it can take up to a week for it to go away. According to, you just go to Medscape, you go to WebMD, strep will actually clear out in 3 to 7 days without treatment. Test me. Go to WebMD and put in strep and search, and it says right there.
I guarantee y'all that's correct.
Okay? 3 to 7 days, and it will clear out on its own with or without treatment. With or without. So whether you give the drug or you don't, it'll still clear out within 3 to 7 days. So with that said, one of the big things that, a lot of doctors try and scare parents with, and the scare tactics drive me nuts, but have you heard of rheumatic fever? Well, that's one of the complications that, in the 20s, 30s, 40s, they noticed that if it's an untreated strep infection, before these antibiotics really came rolling on the market, that rheumatic fever, it's a heart condition, there is rheumatic arthritis, very serious things that could occur for an untreated strep infection that occur later on in life and can be a lifelong struggle.
Yeah.
And when I was looking at what's going on, I actually looked and found that rheumatic fever is actually not even, they don't even track rheumatic fever anymore here. The CDC doesn't even track it. It is, and they don't even look at it anymore. I'm like going, why? Well, it could be what? Due to doing antibiotics every single time, right?
Yeah.
What is it? Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Okay.
You're on a roll, go for it.
So I actually, I love studies and I love PubMed because they're the Bible of all studies. If they're in peer reviewed and they're indexed in PubMed, that's where you go. That is where everybody goes.
It's a great resource.
It is a great resource, and it's all peer reviewed articles. They have to pass the peer review process before they actually get published in PubMed. And this is for everybody. This is not just for doctors. This is for everybody. So when somebody says, oh, you got that from Dr. Google. Well, yeah, I went to the largest known collection of information ever on the planet and got it from PubMed. That's exactly what I did.
Yeah.
That just drives me nuts.
What, the Dr. Google thing?
Yes!
Well, Google is available to doctors too.
Yeah, exactly. And I guarantee you they
that?
Google every day. All right. So
Yeah,
I looked at rheumatic fever. And this is probably the stat that I find most interesting. Found a lot of stuff, but I think, in light of this, says that over a period of time, what we're actually seeing, there are only certain types of strep strains that actually can cause rheumatic fever. So it's not every strep strain that's out there that can cause rheumatic fever. The rheumatic types are 3, 5, 6, 14, 18, 19, and 29. However, today what is circulating is only the non-rheumatic-genic types of 2, 4, 22, and 28. So the types of strep right now that are circulating since 2000, so for the past 17 years, are not even the strains that will cause rheumatic fever. So is this why? Has something changed? I don't know. This study didn't even go further into it. It says it needs further study. And I haven't found anything that somebody took this and ran with it. However, that leads me to believe that not all strep cases have to be treated with antibiotics.
Yeah, I think what we see a lot of times with our parents who are generally our parents understand that overuse of antibiotics can cause long-term issues for their child. And so, with our patients, typically they're looking to avoid antibiotics, unless life-threatening.
Right.
But a lot of times when they hear, oh, it's strep, it kicks off a scare factor. And a lot of times these parents are then getting antibiotics for their children where they probably would make a different choice if they knew these facts. And so there are some great non-antibiotic ways to help work with strep, which we can certainly help point you in the right direction on that if your child is diagnosed with strep. And so again, some of the pediatricians that we work with are very knowledgeable about that kind of thing.
Right.
So don't let the diagnosis of strep kick you into a fear factor to make choices that you might otherwise avoid.
We do, if your child does have a severe sore throat, a fever, you see the white spots, the typical presentation, you do want to get a rapid strep test, whether it's with your pediatrician or the doc in the box down the street. Just know what you're dealing with, so get the test done. And for some parents, it may actually make you feel better to at least get the script, just in case it kind of, your child is so uncomfortable. There are reasons for these things. Know what you're dealing with, and know that it can resolve itself within 3 to 7 days, even without it. So things that you can help, ease that pain of the sore throat is gargling with some salt water. Warm salt water.
Very simple and very effective.
Very effective, and it really helps with the infection as well.
You can also do some inhalation therapy.
Exactly.
Which is putting a humidifier in the room with some essential oils.
Right, and stimulating your immune system, bone broth is excellent for that as well. You can even make popsicles out of the elderberry that we have. The elderberry you can make some popsicles that they can suck on, and it will actually give them the antioxidants and the immune stimulation that you need for that. So there's all different remedies. It depends on your child, what your child wants, and we'll be happy to go through those things with you as well.
Yeah. All right, well that brings us to the end of our Mega Marathon Facebook Live. It has been such a pleasure to hang out with you guys today, and we will be doing another Facebook Live in a few months, and so we always accept questions ahead of time. So if you didn't get your question in this time, stay tuned for the email. You will see on email and social media a link to be able to submit some of your questions ahead of time. And when we're not live on Facebook, we have tons of resources on YouTube, /HealthWorksTX, drjensrecipes.com, with two N's, drchristylife.com, and our at HealthWorksTX blog as well.
So thank you for joining us, and be looking forward to those vaccine videos that I'm putting together. I think you'll really gain a lot of information from them.
Bye guys.
Bye.